I just, I just, I just speak my peace, keep my peace.
What's good, y'all? Welcome to the Speak My Peace podcast. As always, I'm your gracious host, Greg Lacey. Like we always do about this time, I hope this episode reaches you all a good health and that you take care of yourself and your loved ones, as we know how important that is. Happy Women's History Month. To the amazing trailblazers out there, to the amazing women out there that are contributing to women history. Shout out to y'all because y'all are important. Women are, when we speak about superhumans, we speak about otherworldly beings, I believe, and not in a disrespectful way, but I believe that to be women. I think that women possess a strength, women possess a power that no other being possess, and they, endure a lot, go through a lot, and despite all that, they still, remain of top tier of when we speak about beings, those type of people. So I'd be remiss if I did not start off March without shouting y'all out. Shout out to the superhero women in my life, my mother, my grandmother, my sisters, family members, wherever the case may be. Shout out to all y'all, especially everyone who had doing in my upbringing and had some type of influence over me. But especially shout out to, the mothers, because it takes a lot to be a mother. Some women have to go through the journey alone. Some women don't go through the journey alone. And despite all that, you still have to carry this being in your body. And you have to deliver that being, and then you have to care for that being until your dying day. And that is a large commitment, from the conception to the birth to taking care of them for the rest of your life. That is a lot to encompass. And a lot of that, what that encompasses is sacrifices, whether that's sacrificing, putting your goals and dreams on hold, whether that's taking care of them and taking care of the family while also pursuing your goals and dreams, while sacrificing, your health for the sake of delivering this child to the world, but also, sacrificing your health, it could be your mental health, to make sure that, this being and they're being well taken care of, being well nurtured and things like that. A lot of sacrifices encompass that, and that's what make women great. I forget what episode it was. It was a Jackie Robinson episode where I spoke about dedication and that being an important factor in being great. Another one of those factors that being great is sacrifices. Like, you don't get to the status of being great in whatever you do without making sacrifices. People ask me a lot why I do certain things or how I do certain things in my life, and I owe a lot of that to the sacrifices I make. And the reason why I make those sacrifices is honestly because I want better for myself. I always want better for myself. I always want to improve my way of life. And I always want to encourage and inspire those around me, because you only get really one life to live, so you got to make the most out of it. I've spoken about my vegan journey and, what that has meant to me. I've been a vegan for about a year now. Not exclusively, but for the most of the last 14 months, I have been a vegan. I've fallen off the wagon a couple of times, but those couple of times I can't count on two hands. I can really only count on one hand. I may still have a finger left. So I haven't gotten veered too off from the vegan journey. But for the past, I want to say 5 or 6 months, I have exclusively been a vegan. And what that entails is sacrifice. Me growing up, eating the way that I've eaten and indulging in the foods that I indulge, whether that's food, whether that's snacks, whether that's breakfast, whether that's wherever the case it may be, I had to sacrifice and giving up the only thing I've known for 28 years of my life in order to better myself. And what that sacrifice was, wanted to be good and wanting to be great, but also improving. I've spoken about my health issues in previous episode, but for those of you who are new, I have tendonitis in both knees. And in 2021, I hadn't been playing competitive basketball for a while, but I played basketball. I've played basketball all my life. And so 2021, I really got back into playing competitive basketball, playing every weekend and then playing at an adult league and different things like that. And so it was taking more of a toll on my knees. And so these things like had gotten so bad. So we're like, I hoop for a couple of hours and I spend the next 6 minutes icing my knees just because it was so hard to walk on my knees or put pressure on my knees as I was walking. Because that pain was too difficult to endure. It's like a sharp pain right in the middle of my knees, and it was difficult. It made it hard for me to bend my knees the slightest. It made it hard for me to walk because part of walking is bending your knees. It just made a lot of things more difficult for me. And so I started to search out different things to do to improve that. One of the things I considered was physical therapy to really just treat it. Obviously, with physical therapy, money comes. And so I was like, okay, if all else fails, this is what I want to do, but I want to continue to search through different things to do to alleviate this pain, to at least make it bearable, because I still want to play basketball. I don't ever want to give up playing basketball. And so I ran across this article. I forget who it was. It may have been BET, but basically it was an article about the singer Neo, and he was detailing his vegan journey. I think he has been vegan for like 6 years or so. Neo, he's black and he grew up in the South. So he grew up in environments to where he had been high cholesterol food to an even higher degree than I had been for all of his life. And he had tendonitis in the knees as well. And in the article, he detailed just the pain that he had, and the pain that he was describing was the exact pain that I was experiencing. And so in that article, he detailed that, since he's been vegan, he's reversed tendonitis, and my mind was blown. Like, I didn't know that it could be reversed. I just thought that you had to treat it and there was a way to alleviate the pain so it's not as bad as it was. So that piqued my interest. I started reading other articles. I remember I read an article about Chris Paul. I remember that year that he got dunked in season, and he hadn't dunked for so many years, and he attributed that to being vegan. And there's more other black men detailing their journeys of being vegan and how that improved their life. So I told myself, okay, I don't normally make New Year's resolutions, but this year I'm going to make a resolution. And so I got into just being vegan. The journey wasn't difficult. It was just more learning about what's a vegan, what's not vegan, what I can cook, the substitutes for certain textures of meat that I was not eating and different things like that. And it was really just a journey of discovery. But anyways, 2 months into that journey, not even 2 months, it might have been a month and a half into that journey, I was still playing basketball. And I was realizing, I remember one time in my adult league, I played a back-to-back game. Knees did not have any pain at all. And it was the first time that ever had happened. And I was like, wow, this is actually working better than I expected to. I was able to jump a little bit higher than I had been jumping previously, which jumping was never really an issue. It was just the after effect of jumping. I jumped so high and may come down, and maybe a little pain when I come down. And then I made me feel it, the next morning that I just did a little too much. And so when I had that back-to-back game and didn't have no pain after the game, didn't have no pain the next day, I was like, okay, now I understand the benefits of this. And so that was a sacrifice. I had to sacrifice what I had known. I had to sacrifice what I enjoyed. I had to sacrifice what was easy for me, because that's what comes with sacrifice. You have a choice of like, okay, do I continue that as road to normalcy, which is easy because I know that this is something that, I'm used to. This is something that's familiar. This is something that I enjoy. And so why would I want to veer away from that and try out something where I can risk the possibility of one, hating this, it being more difficult because I'm finding myself doing more research on certain things, and also something that just might not enjoy. As I said, I may hate it, but just might not enjoy the process at all. Maybe the food is nasty. Outside of food, other sacrifices you make, maybe the experience is just terrible. And so that is really what halts people and making sacrifices, is really just weighing out the pros and the cons of what you're used to and what you're trying out. And a lot of times people don't take that leap. But I'm here to tell you that what separates average from good to greatness is those sacrifices. If you don't make sacrifices, you're never going to reach the plateau of being the best version of yourself ever. I don't care what realm it is. It can be in your professional career, it can be in business, it can be in investments, it can be in sports, it can be in podcasting, it can be in being a social media influencer, it can be a blogger, Twitch, gamer, whatever the case it may be. You're never going to achieve greatness if you don't make sacrifices and get away from those things that you've been used to your entire life. You have to break those molds. You have to form new molds. You have to break those routines and create new routines. Because if you don't, you're going to subject yourself to an average life. You're going to subject yourself to average results, and you're never going to reach that pinnacle of what you're reaching for. Recently, I watched the Redeem Team on the documentary on Netflix, and honestly, it was the documentary in itself was great. I will say that. But the one thing I enjoyed the most is the consistency in the stories about Kobe Bryant. Even outside of the documentary, the stories about Kobe Bryant and what people remember about Kobe Bryant is the sacrifices he made. Kobe Bryant and Tracy McGrady, really close friends. Tracy McGrady is my favorite basketball player ever. Tracy McGrady often tells this tale of him and Kobe Bryant going on vacation. I forget where it was. I think it was like Paris or something like that. And, you know, they were out in the city of the day. I think went to a amusement park. And, you know, as they get back to the hotel, Tracy McGrady, you know, was telling Kobe Bryant he about to go work out. And Kobe's like, what you need to do that for? You know, go on vacation and, you know, enjoy the summer off. You don't need to do that. And Tracy McGrady says, you know, even though Kobe, you know, told him he needed to do it, he should enjoy summer and his vacation, something like that, he still ended up doing it. So as Tracy McGrady gets back to the hotel, unwinds for a little bit, goes to work out, he sees Kobe Bryant already in the gym working out, drenching in a pool of sweat. That's sacrificing. That's Kobe sacrificing his idle time to become a greater athlete than what he is. Speaking about the Redeem Team documentary, everybody shared a story about, you know, once they got to the Olympic Village, you know, they went out, or it wasn't the Olympic Village, it was before that. It was training camp in Vegas. You know, once they got to Vegas, everybody were young, went out partying in the night, and they come back to the hotel 4 or 5 o'clock, and they get in an elevator to go upstairs. And as they get in the elevator to go upstairs, Kobe Bryant is coming down in the elevator to go to the gym. I may be saying this the opposite way. Yeah, Kobe Bryant is coming down, it's come to the gym. And I guess some of those people, you know, by the time that they got back to the hotel and unwind and finally went to the gym, Kobe had already been in there for 2 or 3 hours, and this man is drenching in a pool of sweat from working out because Kobe wanted to be great at every aspect. He sacrificed his idle time, he sacrificed downtime, he sacrificed family time to be great. It's unfortunate, and I hate always speaking about this, but the reason why he used his transportation of a helicopter, he used it often, was a sacrifice. He realized that towards the latter half of his career, he still wanted to get the most out of himself as an athlete, but he also wants to improve as a parent. He wanted to spend more time with his family, spend more time with his daughters and different things like that. And so living in Los Angeles, traffic is brutal, especially traveling from Los Angeles to where he lived in the OC. So there was no way for him to be able to do both, to one, you know, continue to improve as an athlete and still be there and be a present father. So what Kobe did is he did, you know, his research. He found out that, you know, he can travel by helicopter and still be in both places at one time and still get the most out of both avenues. And so I forget what part of his career he started doing it, but he started traveling by helicopter. So now you can spend an extra hour in a gym. You can hop on a helicopter and fly to the OC, and you're still able to pick your daughters up or drop them off for school or just be at home longer. This was a sacrifice he made. You know, helicopters, planes, whatever the case, even cars, you know, they come with health risks, but he was willing to sacrifice that in order to be with his family more. Think about Michael Jordan. You don't hear too many stories that you see him now because, you know, there's the memes of Michael Jordan with the the bloodshot red eyes and him being drunk. There's Michael Jordan, you know, the partier, or Michael Jordan off the tequila, whatever the case may be. You see him enjoying life a little more now. But if you hear stories about Michael Jordan back when he was an athlete, you don't hear too much about Michael Jordan's leisure time because he sacrificed his idle time to become a greater athlete. And now we know him to be the GOAT. And it's up for no discussion. I don't care who you are. I know we had that episode about LeBron James a couple of episodes ago, but Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. There's no one above him. But how you get to that status is you make sacrifices. You're not going out on the weekends partying. You're not going out at night partying. You're not taking vacations. You're staying home and you're perfecting your craft. We speak about the 10,000 hours of training, speaking about Bruce Lee. Dedicating 10,000 hours to anything is a sacrifice. That means you are focusing a certain portion of your life to perfect one thing. And all three of these athletes that I just named, I don't know if we would consider Bruce Lee an athlete, but all three of these individuals I just named are regarded as either the best or one of the best ever in what their career was. And so we have to understand that in order to reach that plateau, there has to be some things we have to shed as individuals. In a relationship, you want to be the best partner ever or the best partner to your ability, you have to sacrifice certain things. Thinking about the age that I am, or thinking about the age that my friends are, in order to be a greater partner, I realized early that I had to give up what I enjoyed as a single person. So that means the going out and partying on the weekends, hanging out with my friends every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, drinking, been in the club, been in the bars. Those were something I have to shed in order to be a better partner for myself, because there was no way for me to have a successful relationship and still be able to do those things. So that's a sacrifice. Yes, I enjoy these things. Yes, these things bring me a lot of joy. I enjoy spending time with my friends. But now I'm in a committed relationship, meaning that I am subjecting myself to this person wholeheartedly and subjecting myself to this relationship wholeheartedly. In order to get the most out of that situation, I have to be present. And when you remove those things, again, it's not easy to do these things. I know that a lot of times it's that mental battle of whether I should do it or what I'm going to get out of it if I give my whole self, what I'll be burnt from giving my whole self to this thing or not. And then a lot of times I think that people are happy from the results that comes from the giving themselves ultimately to this person. I'm embarking on a journey, and I'm happy to announce this, or I have been on a journey. I'm not embarking on a journey. This is the countdown. We got 18 more days. I'm running a marathon towards the end of this month. And in order for me to prepare for this marathon, I had to make a sacrifice. Anyone who knows me personally know that I can't say I enjoy running, but I run a lot. I've made sacrifices in my life for the past 15, 16 years to keep myself in good shape by working out and also running. Running is my preferred method of working out, and cardio and things like that. And despite me being a runner for how many years I've been running, I've never subjected myself to run more than 5 miles in a run. Maybe I've done no more than 6 miles in a run, ever in the past 6 years. And I told myself coming into this year, I started this last winter, I told myself, I'm going to run a marathon next year. I'm going to start searching out for marathons, see, windows of when certain marathons happen. And I'm going to prepare myself for this, and I'm going to get through this thing. And so that was a sacrifice. I had to sacrifice my time. I had to sacrifice my body. I had to sacrifice my well-being to prepare for this marathon. A lot of what goes into this preparation is just being readily available. My mental has to be in shape. So as I'm continuing my therapy sessions, I'm also continuing meditation, also doing yoga, wherever the case may be, every now and then. Because in order for me to perform at my peak performance during this training, I have to be present in the moment in order to get the most out of that. If I'm not mentally there, I'm not going to get the best out of it. And I've had I've been training since November. My run is towards the end of March. I've had 1 or 2 runs to where I was just trying to run because I wanted to continue on my training schedule, and I wasn't mentally there. Something may have happened the previous night to where I was thinking about it. Maybe I ran later in the morning than I usually do when something happened that morning that affected my run. But in those instances and in those moments I was running, I wasn't there mentally, and it affected my performance. And so I started to realize, like, oh, I have to prioritize this, because yes, my body could physically be there. Yes, my body could be physically able, but if my mental is not in check, I'm not going to get what I want out of that run. And so I've been making sacrifices to make sure that, hey, I had to be, mentally in shape when that race day comes. And how I do that is I implement the different strategies that I detailed in episode 122 to help me, stay sane, but also made me stay, mentally and readily available. Sacrificing my body. This training that I'm doing to prepare for this marathon, man, it's the most difficult training that I ever done in my life. I played football, basketball, ran track, done many of different sports throughout my life. And despite all that, this training is the most difficult I've ever done, without a question. Even me being at the stage of life that I'm in, it's difficult for me to even go through this training. But I had to make a sacrifice. I had to sacrifice my body and go through these weeks of training and deal with the pain and deal with having to ice and deal with having to heat and deal with just making sure that my body is in tip-top shape for the next 6 months so that I can show up to that finish line and run. Because that is the most important thing. Like, if I committed myself to this, that's what I have to do. And so what that sacrifice entails is making sure that I'm stretching, making sure that I'm giving my all on these runs, making sure that I'm going at the paces I need to go during these runs, making sure that my body is readily available for each and every single run that I do, whether it's a light run, whether it's a hard run, whether it's a long run, whether it's a sprint workout, wherever the case it may be. I had to make sacrifices to make sure that I am up at 6 o'clock in the morning on whatever day that I have to run and available to do that. Another sacrifice that I have to make is just my free time. In the midst of training for this marathon, I was preparing for season 6 of this podcast. And so I'm dedicating a portion of my day to working. I'm dedicating a portion of my day to this podcast. I'm dedicating a portion of my day to prepare for this marathon. And that takes a lot. That sacrifice is a lot. I already feel like work takes too much of my day. And now I'm dividing the rest of my day between 2 other things. And you don't, if you work a 9-hour shift every day, 5 times a week, you don't have too much free time. And so I have to sacrifice my free time after I get off of work, as well as my weekends, to preparing for this marathon. And it's a lot. It's strenuous. A lot of times it can be demanding. Outside of it being physically demanding, it can be mentally demanding, because it's like, yes, I want to go out. I want to enjoy things, which I do make time for myself to enjoy things, go to a basketball game, go to a concert, travel, whatever the case may be. I do these things, but in the midst of all that, I still have to make sure that my priorities is making sure that I'm ready for this marathon. So it's like, so we have I may want to go to a party on a Saturday, but no, I have the run on a Sunday. Understanding that I can only enjoy this party for a certain amount of time. I have to leave at a certain time to make sure that I get home to sleep, to have an adequate amount of rest to wake up and go run the next day. And I have to mentally tell myself about these things all the time. As I'm enjoying life, I have to make those sacrifices. I have to be able to enjoy certain things that I do, but also understand that the bigger picture is this marathon. And so even outside of the focus for this marathon, just in life in general, we have to make sacrifices. I gave you all a glimpse onto, my decision to potentially leave my employer a couple years ago, and what ultimately led me to stand. I had to make a sacrifice when I was getting ready to leave. Ultimately, I didn't leave, but it was like I was comfortable working here. I've been working here for 2 years. I've known these people for 2 years, so I feel comfortable in the setting. But I understood my worth. I understood that I needed more money for what I was doing. I understand that I was being undervalued in that moment. And so I had to make a sacrifice. Do I either wait it out and hope that I'm going to get promoted and make more money? or do I go find it somewhere else? And ultimately, I decided to go somewhere else to find that money. And when I went somewhere else to find that money, my employer found a way to give me the money that the other places don't give me, but even more. That was a sacrifice. I was sacrificing my livelihood, sacrificing everything that I have known at that point to become a greater me, to learn more, to branch out to, a different company and work on a different a brand. And that was a sacrifice. Sacrifices. I think that life can be amazing. And a lot of times we get caught up in that. We get caught up in enjoying the fruits of our labor. We get caught up in enjoying our surroundings. We get caught up in what we're comfortable with. But some people want the best out of themselves. They want to be better than their competition. And you don't get to that plateau of being the best in whatever realm you are in without making sacrifices, whether that's sacrifices in your personal life, whether that's financial sacrifices, whether that's sacrificing your mental health or on a minuscule level, sacrificing your body, as I'm saying. You have to make sacrifices to separate yourself from the crowd, because the reason why you're in the crowd is because everybody is comfortable in the setting they're in because that's what they're used to. And maybe some people in that crowd that may be a little bit better than others, but what's not pushing them to the top and pushing them outside of that crowd is the sacrifices they're refusing to make. With this podcast, I know that there's levels that, to take this podcast, and there's levels I have taken this podcast. The growth of this podcast in the past 3 years has been greater than what I expected to be because of certain sacrifices I have made. I detail a lot of times that, I'm a very personal person and I don't like to share too many aspects of my life. And I realized when I opened myself up and became more transparent, that allowed for more growth within this podcast. And I know that if I wanted to take another step, I have to make other sacrifices to get this podcast to another level. Also, now I'm back into that balancing act of figuring out what am I comfortable with and what do I want. If I want to be the best podcaster in the niche that I'm in, I have to make those sacrifices in order to grow. And that's with every aspect of life. If you don't get out of your comfort zone, if you don't sacrifice what you're used to, if you don't sacrifice what feels good, you're never going to separate yourself from the pack. And that's in every aspect of life, as I keep reiterating. So as we get out of here, I want to say, understand what's needed. Do your research. Look at your competition. Understand what you want. Brainstorm on your goals. Make a vision board, whatever the case may be. And understand where you're at and the sacrifices you need to go from point A to point B. Because a lot of times what's holding you back from getting from point A to point B, or from being average to being good, or from being good to being great or the greatest, is a sacrifice. And you may not be able to recognize it at this point, but as you do your research and you look at your competition, you look at, who's the top of the top in your field, you see the sacrifices that they've made, whether that's dedicating themselves to, if it's a social media influencer, maybe they're posting 3 or 4 posts every day. Maybe they're editing their own videos. Maybe they're, collaborating with certain people. Maybe they're being very personable. Wherever the case may be, what's separating the best from the rest of the pack is the sacrifices they make. So once again, as we get out of here, I do want to shout out women, especially the mothers, because I've seen it firsthand, the sacrifices it take in order for you to be the greatest. I would not be here speaking to you all on this subject if sacrifices wasn't made for the benefit of me. And so I'm very appreciative of that. Happy Women's History Month. That's the Speak My Peace podcast. No, before we do get out of here, my what to watch for this week, we're going to go with, because I just spoke on, if you haven't seen it yet, watch The Redeem Team on Netflix. And you want to hear about those sacrifices that those athletes made to rid the narrative of the team who had lost in the Olympics the previous 4 years. So once again, my what to watch for this week is The Redeem Team. That's the Speak My Peace podcast for this week. I'm out.